Peggy's Place is brought to you by licensed therapist M.A. Brower. Would you like to change your relationship with food? Then let M.A. teach you mindful eating, how to savor the flavors, slow down, and eat less. M.A. Brower in Molalla, your travel guide to the interior.
This message is brought to you in part by the Surf Market Pete's Coffee Bar. Our Pete's trained baristas can make that perfect cappuccino, latte, or mocha to hit the spot any time of day. Prefer a cup of freshly prepared drip coffee? We have that too. Cozy up with a cup of warm goodness anytime. We're here for you.
And hello, everybody. Peggy Berryhill here with you this morning. And in just a minute or so, we'll be joined by Mark Gross, who has driven all the way from the East Coast to be here today. And we are here. I can tell Mark is having some hearing issue, but we can see you. And
yeah,
can you
I'm
hear
here.
us now?
I'm here.
Okay, I've got your mic down, so I can't hear you yet, but I'll open it up in just a moment. First, I got to thank everybody for all your wonderful birthday wishes. Yes, I've made it to another year and going to keep on going as long as I can. I had a wonderful, wonderful time and so many wishes and had a lot of socializing. Susan and I added up and we were around in front of, hugging, talking with more than 10 people over the weekend. Our staff, much of our staff, Mark wasn't here at the time, but Leanne Lindsay organized this surprise party over at Trinks, and indeed it was a surprise. I thought we were just, Susan and I were having brunch with Leanne, and we get out of the car, and first I see Roberta Chan. I go, oh, look, Roberta's having something at Trinks. And then this whole table full, I didn't notice the whole table full of people jumped up and said, happy birthday. So Leanne, you really surprised me. Thane and his wife, Maurice, who I finally met, was there. Annie Eden from the Lala Soul Show, Paul Monday, and Roberta Chan. And it was just really sweet. And then some friends from Sebastopol drove up yesterday. They were spending the night here. So Shona and Eric, a big shout out to you guys. One of the most fun wedding I've ever been to at Bodega Bay. And it said, there's this whole subset in Bodega Bay you may not know of, but there's a lot of Scottish people, a lot of Irish, and a lot of English. And Shona is Scottish, Eric is British, and their minister was Irish. I mean, it was a hoot of a wedding. Anyway, that was my weekend. I hope you had a great weekend. And Mark drove cross country last week as he promised. And okay, Mr. Mark, I got your mic up. Can you say hi?
Hi.
There he is.
And you do really well with surprises. Oh my.
I do.
Wow, what am I wearing? How do I look? How old am I? Who's here? What am I doing? You know, do I know their faces? Do I know their names? Uh-oh. Happy birthday.
He's saying that. I think he's saying that too, because we are live on KGUA's YouTube channel, where you can watch how Mark and I go through our machinations today. So from time to time, you may see us being a bit surprised by things. But,
we'll be a bit surprised. I drove 14 and a half hours yesterday.
That is so long.
You know how long Arizona is?
Yeah, I do. Arizona is close, but it's, 14.
But I was in that mode, like, okay, if I get to Kingman, I only have 800 miles on Monday. I can get home on Sunday night.
What time did you get in?
Well, I got into Kingman at 1:15, but I had to produce the show because I knew I was driving all day Sunday. So I got into the Holiday Inn. There was a BMX road biking kids race. So you can imagine what the hotel was like at 1:50. The dog is barking. I'm unloading the car for like the 9th time. swimming around in my head, which we'll talk about. And then I produced the show, which kind of relaxed me. I did that till about 2 a.m. And then I got up at 5, packed up the car, boom, all the way home. But I got to tell you, I-5 at the end of 12 hours is kind of like, all
Oh
right,
my
this
God.
goes on forever.
It goes
And then
on
once
forever. Yeah.
once I got to, well, you'll hear about it. Once I got to home, it was kind of like, wow, I didn't realize, well, there's so much. I didn't realize, Peggy, when I got into New Mexico after driving, I drove from Amarillo to Kingman.
Hmm.
I didn't realize how open space affects me so much. Like I was in so much density and traffic, and then all of a sudden the space opens up in New Mexico.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow, this is just a preview of what's waiting for me at home.
Yeah, just the opposite, actually.
Right.
The dry lands to the ocean. But so you like the open space?
Well, just living here, well, we'll talk about open space and density and traffic and people and it's the second or third time I saw this bumper sticker, and I can't say it on public radio, but it's F Biden on bumper stickers all over the cars.
Oh,
And I just, well, we'll talk a lot. Well, you and I will have coffee. We'll talk a lot
we will.
about
And
this.
our friends Scott and Tree are doing just the opposite. They left
Right.
this morning to go to Maine.
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's really, I'll call them, it's getting out in the world like that is, it's still overwhelming for me. I really wrote so much. But anyway, I am in this little hat shop in Albuquerque on the old Route 66, which I read about. It's like the best hat shop in the country. And I wanted to get Billy a hat for the son. And I went in and, it was awesome. And some girl says hi. And I said hi. And she says, I like that hat. And I'm wearing the hat, right? I said, where are you from? She says, are you from Albuquerque? She says, no, I'm from San Francisco. I said, all right. No, that was last week's prompt.
Right.
That's not this week's prompt. She says, yeah, I'm living in Dolores Park, but I'm moving. I'm moving next week to I'm cutting the cord and I'm going remote and I'm moving to this place called Elk. Did you ever hear about it? Oh, man. And her name is Keen.
Did you tell her about Queenies?
Of course.
Of course.
And Peggy Berryhill and KGUA Writers. And I said, I wish I had room in the car. I would drive you back. And her name is Karina and whatever.
Hey, hi, Karina, wherever you are.
But I'm glad you mentioned Maurice. She wrote this week. First time.
Yeah. It was wonderful meeting Maurice and checking out the Maurice and Thane are the new owners of the Loft, folks.
Yes, I know that. Yeah, they're awesome. So we have a lot to catch up on, you and I, Peggy, a lot.
We do. And I just want to remind people, 10th anniversary up at Coast Highway Art Collective in Point Arena, 150th anniversary for the Point Arena Lighthouse. Yes.
And we did a writing contest. Yep.
Great. Other things are happening. The weather is blue skies, windy. I have some friends coming up this week who are camping out. I said, wear your layers. So anyway, yes, I have, folks, look at how thick these are today's writers, and Mark and I better stop talking.
We're going to stop. And right. I think we're all together, and I'm going to start. I wrote a piece I recorded it last night.
Okay.
And I transcribed it.
So you're reading it? Because I don't have a recording.
Yeah, because if I recorded it and wrote it, you'll be giving me all these chatting faces saying there's too much static, there's too much noise. So I transcribed it and I can hardly read.
There's too much static and noise. Just read. No.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
I hate to say this though, Mark, you do look like you're in jail.
Well, I haven't showered. I didn't know I'm on YouTube. I showered yesterday.
So lucky we're on radio.
And I drove 14 and a half hours, so there you go. Oh, I look like I'm in jail, the Capitol. I didn't do the backdrop. Okay, right. Here we go. Good morning, episode 54, everyone. Good morning. My writing. Linda, Julia, Wendy, Sandy, Julie, Cameron, Sierra, Jess, Mark, Kofi, Frank, Lindsay, Brian, Terry, Chloe, Lara, Alex, Kelly, Chuck, Michelle, Paul, Lemmy, the Breonna Taylor exhibit in Louisville, Kentucky, Allison and Crystal Bridges in Bentonville, Glenstone in Potomac, the Hank Willis Thomas exhibit at the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C., my neighbors Katie and Joe, Catherine in Georgetown, 14 hours and 4 hours of sleep after producing this show in the Holiday Inn in Kingman, Arizona last night. Last night, I just took the right turn to what people up here in our neck of the woods call the longest driveway home. And I am heading home. And I am taking all these people who live in my home that I saw in 25 states, which I realize where my home is, it's in my heart. But now I'm going home to my husband, bringing the pack together with our 2 dogs to where my physical home is, where the treasures of my home are in my heart. And my family, my husband and my dogs and the ravens and the ocean and Peggy and the merging of my homes and the writers. And I bring my heart home with all these people. And nowhere in the past 6 weeks did anyone say, what was it like this year? Because just sitting in the same room, being in the same place, hugging my daughter on her birthday, holding my grandson who jumped for joy and said, Papa Mark, running with my dog to Mount Vernon, meeting Karen for a hike in Skyline Drive. All these places fit comfortably in my home and my heart. But I also missed home, where my everyday is filled with love and gratitude and friends and ocean and words and ravens and trees. And thanks to Peggy and Barry and so many of my friends that I talked to on endless highways, mile after mile, hands-free. And I learned about me. I learned about the divisiveness in the work that has to be done in this country, the work I have to do on myself. I'm not innocent of a lot of things going on. I found myself snapping to judgment, profiling, asking a police officer in Louisville, where can I walk my dog in Louisville that is safe? And he looked at me. Everything is safe. But now I'm home, at home. And these homes will always be with me with all the people. And this morning I woke up and I felt a release of all anxiety. And I looked at the ravens, prepped the show, signed on and said, hey, Peggy.
Hey, Mark. Thank you. Wasn't it nice hearing the sea lions this morning?
Yeah. It's overwhelming. And then for you to start with your birthday gathering. So, nobody says, what was it like for you? Everybody is just, we endured. When you're with other people now, we all endured this last year and a half, and we know it, and we're together. So we don't have to talk about the year and a half. We're
That's
just
right.
together. We're just together. And I remember walking into your little dinner party a few weeks ago. We're just at the same table. We don't have to say anything, nothing.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for that, Mark. And with that, I am going to play set number 1 for us that Mark prepared at 1 o'clock this morning. Somewhere.
At the Holiday Inn.
All right.
Huge and elegant, small and sparse, snug and floating harbor bound, made of brick, wood, and fiberglass. Nowadays, many neighbors only have 4 wheels and a forever changing location. Companionship, human or animal, doesn't make a home. It helps if there's love involved, but too many situations include respect or disrespect from a distance, addiction, and or violence, all lonely prisons. Security via wealth, power, possessions, or food isn't a home. Owning more of anything only brings worry for its loss and the expense of preserving it. For me, home is the door to a space, den, bedroom, bathroom, one's inner heart, on which the lock can be thrown at any time, and where the sound of it resting in its home brings a sigh of relief, relaxation, and liberating feeling of safety.
This is John Allen Cam from Anchor Bay, California. The theme is home. So much has been written about home, it's hard to imagine saying anything new. The home is most compendious, comprehensive, and capacious. Images from our stories do vary. The cradle, the treehouse, the honeymoon bed, the rocking chair on the porch, cemeteries in the moonlight, ash in the air, tents beside the off-ramp. I've heard after 35, all writing is about going home. Some say home is just where you start from. Others that home is where they have to take you in. When I was 15, I was sent away to boarding school, and home, a place visited on school breaks. Something was never the same. James Baldwin said, perhaps home is not a place, but a condition. Sometimes my dad would quote the title of the one book he'd read by Thomas Wolfe. Again, it was published posthumously from an unfinished manuscript. I lived a summer in New York in a vida, memorizing French words in order to succeed with a placement. And later, the van was again a kind of home for a semester of grad school at San Francisco State. Brief periods of nomad land. Solitude, I suppose, has been something of an irrevocable condition, being hermetic, circumscribed by silence. Fate in the long run has been kind to me. A lovely woman, Robin, took it upon herself to join me. And we made a home or something. I know less every day, but I know this. Home is in the eyes of those who love you. Home is in the eyes of those who love you.
Well, Mary, sorry, we missed a couple of your first words, but we got your wonderful point about homes. And John, too, there was something odd about your recording. Apologize for that, but we really, you said a lot there, you know.
Blame it on the Kingman holiday in
Short
Connecticut.
moment here. I didn't write about home, but you know, it really, my first thoughts, of course, are your first home or homes where if you're lucky, you had love of parents. And the home in my formative years was a 3-room apartment in Alameda where my room was a walk-in closet. And so I was closeted for a long time, Mark, before I even knew what that meant. And
You beat me to it. Yeah.
You know,
You were a walk-in closet. So people, the whole walk-in closet metaphor is great.
God. Anyway, so I just keeping it short, but I think it is more of that thing of, you know, it's wherever you are. And in the years when I traveled, whether I was going to be living in off of a 2-lane highway on a 1-street town in North or South Dakota, I'd always carry a mug, my favorite mug. And I automatically, when I traveled, I would call any hotel or motel room home. At the end of the day of whatever I was doing, I'd say, well, I'm going home now. And that just made it easier and to not feel so isolated or separated. Okay, well, this is home. Made it easier. And today, of course, home with Susan and our dogs, and here with all of our family, this is home. But so I found that home was so, it was an enormous identity in some ways. If you're someone who's lived a lot, traveled a lot, and well, it's enormous even if you only lived in one home. We're lucky to live in one place. And then I'm so happy that Mary mentioned there's a lot of people that home is none of those things today.
Oh, especially now. And the other thing, Peggy, is we called everything shelter in place. And on my
Yeah.
drive, I realized we sheltered home. We sheltered at home.
Yep, we certainly did. Hey, who do you want to read before we get to the rest of the voices?
Let's see. How about I read? I have them all open up. Bingo. Let's go Denise Mendoza.
Great. That's a new name.
Well, she wrote a long time ago. I hope I have it. Huh. Okay, bear with me 1 second.
Either that or I'm going to start reading.
You start reading and I'll pull this up, Peggy.
Okay, well, the one that's on top right here, and I'm just going to show the YouTube audience because it includes musical notes.
Yes.
I love that. And that's from our friend Thane, and one of our great volunteers here who has made my life and Leanne's life so much easier. Home by Thane Frivold. Home is where I want to be. So sings David Byrne of the Talking Heads in one of my all-time favorite songs, Native Melody. Pick me up and turn me around. So is home a place? Is it somewhere you can go or stray from? Home, but I guess I'm already there. How do you know when you're there? Home, I came home, she lifted up her wings. Guessed that this must be the place? Is it people, a feeling of comfort? Where the love is. The past year has put much of that into question. We no longer live in our house, but another one. Both are home, though in slightly different ways. I can't tell one from another. Home, did I find you or you find me? But it really is the people, not the things. Though the things, photos, books, baubles, coffee cups, are a part of it too. They capture and hold memories. Home, and you're standing here beside me. Home, I love the passing of time. Maybe it's just a collective delusion that we buy into that makes life worth living. FYI, since emoji support is not universal, please note that the indications above are prefixed with a musical note to denote the lyrics. And if I were more handy with audio editing, I might have attempted to do a recording with the song in the question. And maybe I will try over the weekend, and that could be officially late too. Cheers. Thane, we can teach you how to do that. There's an app for that.
Teach you how. That was awesome. Thank you, Thane. And thanks for the kind note as I was traveling. Okay, Denise Mendoza, welcome back. Home. I've heard the saying, home is where the heart is, but I've never given it any thought until now. I am a true California girl. For 50 years, Los Angeles County was the only home I knew. I never went away to college. I grew up in Whittier after I married Bill. We moved to Alhambra and downsized to a loft in Pasadena while looking for our forever home. Then in August of 2020, Bill and I bought a house in Manchester, California. For the last 8 months, we had been quarantined in Manchester. So once we were vaccinated, we planned a 20-day road trip south. We would drive back home to LA for appointments, family visits, and a ski trip in Mammoth. I was excited, but I was also nervous about the trip. Would I regret leaving LA or would I miss Manchester? On day number 3, driving through Santa Barbara, a melancholy feeling came over me. I was staring out the window, looking at the ocean, and I mentioned to Bill I was sad. He asked why. I told him I wasn't sad because I missed Southern California, but because I missed Manchester. I already missed our new paradise, our house, our views, our home. He agreed with me. 20 days was too long to be away. I now know the answer to my question. I do not regret leaving LA. Manchester is home. I need to tell you, Peggy, I printed these out and I hadn't read them because the audios, I was spending time on the audios. And I just came back from 21 days of being away from home. And the feeling, she captured it. I'm overwhelmed because I just read it. And the melancholy of feeling home and all the meanings behind it. It's overwhelming. So we have a beautiful home up here with beautiful people, regardless of whether our drapes and furniture is beautiful. We have each other. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. I'm going to read Greg Policek. And is Greg new or has he written before?
I think Greg wrote once before.
Now, and I
Welcome
apologize
back,
to
Greg.
the writers that I can't keep track. Greg, oh boy, Mark does a much better job of keeping track. So welcome, Greg.
Except at 2:00 in the morning in the Holiday Inn Express in Kingman during the BMX Bike Festival.
Yeah.
Was not very organized.
I had one of those experiences at Hilton in Sacramento where there was the cheerleading contest going on. Whew.
Oh, and Peggy, what color was your uniform?
Home. One of my first jobs coming out of college was to manage a brand new shopping center. I was wet behind the ears with a full head of bushy brown hair, was thin and no wrinkles. After the shopping mall opened to the public, my morning routine was to open the doors and let in the mall walkers and inspect the cleanliness of the restrooms, food court, and common areas. Shortly after we opened, I noticed an elderly woman was always at the doors when I opened up the place. She went directly to sit on the same bench and up in front of the food court every morning. She walked to the mall from the senior housing right across the street. She always sat in the same place. No coffee, no visiting with others, no mall walking. She wore a frown on her face and she didn't say much. She just scowled at everyone. One day I went up and introduced my cheerful self and naively said, "You must really like the new mall. You're here every day." She rebuffed me. "Son, this used to be my living room," and raised a crooked, wrinkled finger and pointed to her left. "And my kitchen was over there. And now I'm stuck in an apartment across the street." She went on. "I kept it a clean house. It wasn't falling down, and the city condemned it. My husband even put a new roof on it before he died, so I wouldn't have to deal with that after his death. I want my home back. The city stole my home. It was my special place." Later, I found the lady's home was taken by eminent domain for the civic improvement project that I managed. I never got the lady's name, but 35 years later, the lesson of her grieving for her home is still with me. That improvement project was actually demolished 4 years ago to make way for another civic improvement project. Thank you, Greg.
You know, there's so much. Last night I was driving through Bakersfield, and Billy's mom grew up in Bakersfield with 4 kids. And before she died, a few years before she died, they were building a highway that would take away from her home. And she was poverty stricken, and she's saved money to buy this little tiny house. And I've seen it. And now it was going to be knocked down for eminent domain. And I totally forgot about it. And of course, Judy lived with us. You met her. That's where she came. And I'm being rerouted off of 58 from Mojave yesterday through Bakersfield. And I said, oh, wow, I'm going to drive past Stockdale Highway and see everything I knew. It's one super highway. It's all gone. And I just said, that was Judy's house her whole life. Eminent domain. And the other thing I need to say, Peggy, and you'll see all these things are having tremendous effect on me, is when I was chatting with you the other day, and Susan was talking about the transition here with the homes and the houses. And it just came to me, a lot of people are buying houses up here, but those houses are a lot of people's homes. Let's not forget that.
All right. Well, let's keep moving. This is KGUA in Wallala, 88.3 FM, where we also stream globally at kgua.org. We are on the TuneIn app, radio.garden, and the Air Pocket app. Just go to kgua.org and download that Air Pocket app, and you can carry us with you anywhere. I have a pretty strong feeling that Scott and Tree are listening to us somewhere on the road, probably in Nevada well, no, not quite. I don't know what time they left. They could be almost in Nevada. And this is KGUA Writers with Mark Gross and all these wonderful people. Let's hear the voices of our next set. Fingers crossed. Here we go.
Home, a story by David Stoloff, Easton, Connecticut. For Peggy, Mark, KGUA storytellers and listeners. When I was 3, our family moved from the Bronx to Oceanside, New York, a suburb 25 miles away on Long Island. I still remember crying that I wanted to go home, go back home. The search for home and family has been a theme in my life. For a while as a young adult, I would arrive at a new place in September, enjoy the novelty of meeting new people and pleasures, and then planning my escape to another adventure in January. Then I met my beloved and slowed down my search for home, only every other year, then every 4 years. Nearly 26 years ago, I asked my beloved to find us a home near the university where I would be teaching. The home should be within walking or biking distance from my office. She took our month-old daughter across country with her, and with the help of an aunt who was a real estate agent, found our home on a street that ended at the edge of the university's woods. Our family grew here, in a home that has a boys' cave in the basement for the twins, a corner room for a third son, a princess room, and a dining room that overlooks the forest. We have been comfortable here, now left with the memories of our lives, with photos and rooms that have become storage. Zillow tells us that to move is to grow. We are anticipating a move to our next home. It will be difficult. We've gotten used to the change in seasons, the humidity and wetness, our friends. My beloved is secretary of the Willimantic Lions Club. We enjoy the quirkiness of our town, the events we go to at the university, our community. Last week, I wondered if we might be able to afford a home in LA to be with our daughter, but saw only $1 million homes in a hot, dry, dusty valley. Perhaps we will just stay here and do more virtual touring and soon car and plane travel. The best part of traveling is the coming home.
Gandhi once wrote that heaven on earth begins in the home, and that like ripples in a pond reaches out to the universe. I think about that often. My heaven on earth is our home and the woodland gardens that surround it. Besides magnificent old redwood and fir and oak and pine, we have a garden of volunteers and abundant natives, dappled with just enough sunlight to grow a few vegetables and herbs. I love the garden with the unconventional blend of survivors and natives, open to the wildlife that is still abundant here in the Pacific Northwest. My husband milled the boards that built our home. The design was ours from our dreams of a forever home, and it is aging well. I wish I could say the same for myself. We are so very blessed to live in a small town atmosphere with rivers and parks and beaches so nearby. A community of diverse, caring people makes our home even more special. If home is where our heart is, then my home belongs right here for the rest of my days. There is no place like home.
You know, Jan and Dave, Peggy, I was thinking about you. I went through so many cities and cranes and buildings and scaffolding, and we don't have that up here. Yes, you know, we're redoing the market and things like that, and there's another tower and there's one traffic light on Highway 1. But the whole country is under demolition and rebuilding and skyrocketing prices and bidding to get a little house and people moving all over. And when I was driving, it was suggested I drive through Tulsa because it was the 100th anniversary of the riots in Tulsa in the Greenwood area. So I took the road off and, and that Greenwood, and I expected to feel to walk those walks, right? The streets and feel what's going on, because that's what this whole trip was about. There was an art fair going up. There are 3 coffee shops. There's a bookshop. There are signs going up, coming soon, condos, the Greenwood condos, and it's like, wow. And Greenwood used to be a rich area where the riot started, but now it's just being built because it has a history. It's so overwhelming about we're converting everything into privilege.
Yeah.
So Peggy, can you see?
Oh, look at that. Yes.
That's from Eastern Market for you. It matches your shirt today. Handmade from indigenous folks.
In Delaware?
Eastern Market on Capitol Hill.
Oh, okay. No, I meant the indigenous folks.
Oh, no, I don't know where he said they're
lovely.
from.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I love it.
I would say I got for your birthday, but I totally forgot it was your birthday when I got it. So, but we could.
That's okay. That's all right.
Remember, I told you last week I got you something from Eastern Market. So there you are. I will read.
I have no idea. Go ahead.
I'll read Bill Maybe.
Sure.
Okay. I had been in Honduras for over 2 years. My time was coming to a close. Like everyone else, I had to make a choice. I could either go local or go home. I finally went home. When I exited the plane in California, I found myself on a conveyor belt in line with a bunch of other Americans. The man in front of me had impeccably clean blonde hair. Every strand was perfect. It was unnerving. Members of my family welcomed me at the airport. They wore T-shirts and said, "Hondo Man, he's back." I felt the love. The drive home was strange as cars stayed in their lanes. I marveled at the order of it all. Going home was challenging. Old friends weren't particularly interested in the journey I had experienced. They would quickly change the subject and go back to talking about pro football and basketball. Nobody seemed to care what I had done, who I had become, and how I had lived during those years in Central America. I sought out new friends. To this day, my close Peace Corps friends, Mitch and Wade, remain some of my very best friends. They were there, and only they fully understand what it was like and how unique an experience it really was. We knew what it was like to be out there. It would permanently open wide the doors of travel for my wife, Denise, and I in the years that followed. It's true, Bill and Peggy. Nobody knows what it's like when we say where we live or what home is. Nobody knows, but we do. And that makes it home.
And not everybody travels with the same kind of open eyes as you and me
right.
and Bill Maybe, or, comes home and, they're just, you're back and you're just expected to be back in sync with everybody,
So different. It was game changing.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, go right ahead.
All right. Laura Young. Hi, Mark and Peggy and KGUA Writers Group. We share a home on the radio. I like that. We may have to steal that.
We could do that.
Home on the radio.
Home on the radio.
See you there soon. Stay safe, travel free, and be well. Home is many places and can take many forms, animals, plants. Even our planet has a home and stomping grounds. The movie Nomadland is about home and about how our needs can change as circumstances move through their natural cycles. For years, Sebastopol was my home. It became a time to look back upon and savor the sense of self that needed to develop in those years, my 20s. Eric Erickson told us we were supposed to learn intimacy in that decade of life, if we were ever to feel at home in ourselves. That didn't happen to me until another decade had passed. Being a late bloomer brought extravagant advantages to me and afforded those 6 dear Sebastopol years before starting to take life more seriously. It was my dog, most of all, who I adored. We were the best of friends, watching the sun set out the kitchen window over changing apple blossoms and shifting greens that maybe Michael Chabon could describe, but not I. Erickson seems obsolete now. Lars Tomsten came along and added, oh boy, gyrotranscendence to develop psych theory. Not everyone has that psychedelic opening into vastness and wisdom that may not make sense, but it makes a homeland within. That's where sunsets and best friends reside, at home.
I
Well,
love it.
I'll talk about that. Yeah.
Lori, thank you. And I think I mentioned last week, it's a much longer story, but I'll just capture it, that I did Lori a favor and I went to Arlington Cemetery to visit her mother's gravestone.
Oh,
And I put a rock on it for memory. And
oh,
I've never met Lori, but it all came out with the writing. And I went over there and I did that, and another feeling about home.
and you just, all of this brings up so many thoughts, but Washington, D.C. is a place of memories
Oh,
and homes for Americans of all over our country. Americans, I mean, it's just so much there. In so many ways, it's a rich place. It's about the history, depending on how you want to see it, but that's what it is. But there's so much more, but it's all about people.
well, it's all about people, and it's transient people.
Yes.
Because it changes. And that's what's so amazing. There's so much. I went to an exhibit at the National Building Museum by Hank Willis Thomas, who built 4 houses out of 700 bricks. And the way he configured the bricks, they formed cubby holes. Each brick represents a death by gun violence, and each cubby hole is furnished with a little knickknack from the family of the person who occupies that cubby hole. This was what was going on. I saw the Breonna Taylor exhibit in Louisville, which I can't even begin more about that. I'm going to read Maurice. Okay. Or did you want to read Maurice? Because
but we're in sync because I have it right here. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, I've been listening to KGUA Writers for months and have been intimidated, but this subject talked to me. You might recognize the last name. We were coming out of the woodwork. Thank you for this wonderful program. Stay healthy and safe. Home has different meanings. Home is where my heart is. Very cliche, but so true for me. Home is where I grew up, in north of Paris and later in Brittany. Home is the US. I've lived in New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and California. I take away New York. That was my error. Home is Redwood City, where I spent most of my adult life and raised my kids. Home is Wallala, where the pandemic has taken me. Home is where all the memories with family and friends are stored, good or bad, sad or happy. There is so much to talk about, so today I will refer to home at the smaller physical scale, the house. A home is where whoever enters feels the love and the history. A home is where you find peace, safety, support, and love, where you can look at random pictures on the walls and smile because they remind you of someone you love or some special place you have been to. Size doesn't matter. I have been to absolutely gorgeous, vast houses and felt disconnected and cold, more like visiting a museum. While I can visit friends in a small, cramped house sitting at the cluttered kitchen table and feel such immense warmth. A house may have a price tag, but a home has a value that isn't tangible. The value of a home lies in the emotions felt when entering it, where guests feel welcome and where everyone gathers around a table to share a meal. I love that. A house has a price tag, but a home does not.
It isn't tangible. Thank you, Maurice. And it was so nice to meet you. And it's just wonderful. I think, don't we have another
We have another audio set. We have one, two, three more readings. So why don't you read one more?
Well, let's go to Maine because Hannah Rothermel is from there, and I know that's where our friends are heading today. Home, more than a place, it's a feeling. At home is how I can feel in a variety of places. I can be all alone. I can be baking, doing yard work, shoveling my winter walkway, riding my bike, walking with a friend, at the gym, sewing, thrift shopping, listening to music, spending time with our kids and their kids, and I can feel at home. Ever a homebody, staying tucked in at home is one of my favorite activities. Alone with my husband, though not necessarily actively engaged with one another, creating in the kitchen, food, or at the kitchen table, usually writing letters. No matter what a day may bring, perhaps too busy with haircuts or other scheduled events, when I remind myself that at the end of my day, that I get to come home and be with my husband and our Maine Coon cat, who seems invariably to find my lap, it's a great day. Coming home first called to me years ago after giving birth to our daughters in Arizona with our aging parents back in New York and New Jersey. And after 10 years and 2 kids, Arizona no longer felt like home. So we moved home in January from Arizona to New England with a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. And with the birth of our son 2 years later, and all 4 parents able to visit, we continued to build that home, which would continue to become ours and really feel like home for going on 40 years. And now with our kids having their kids, and the feeling of being at home grows sweeter still. I didn't know it was possible. Thank you, Hannah. I love that.
I love our writers.
I
love
knew
our
it.
writers. Yeah. It has been the most authentic, genuine gift of the past year and a half.
There's no better way to describe it. No better way. I'm going to read one short one.
Please.
Anonymous girl. If home is where my heart is, then I have 1,000 homes. Gee, I like that line. If home is where my heart is, then I have 1,000 homes. There are fragments of my heart buried deep in the tobacco soil of North Carolina. Others are adrift in the tides of Bowling Ball Beach. Still, others haunt the bleachers of the Hollywood Bowl, the Greek, and the Poly Pavilion. And now there are pieces lodging themselves into the muddy trails and eagles' nests near my home in Washington State. Home is here, and home is there, and there, and there. Thank you, anonymous girl. Voices? Set 3?
Yeah, voices set 3. Dan Rothermel and Barry Holloway.
This is Dan Rothermel from the coast of Maine, free writing on our first home sweet home. As young newlyweds in the Valley of the Sun in the early 1970s, Hannah and I began looking for a house within walking distance of the U. By that I mean Arizona State University. A little 3-bedroom, 1-story place that just under $21,000 looked out the window and called our names. Hardly able to contain our enthusiasm, with no poker face at all, we offered 1,000 less. They countered that for the original price, they'll include all the furniture for the entire house. It was a done deal, and we had our first home at the corner of Roosevelt and West 16th Street. Our neighbors got a good laugh, and we bought a push mower to cut the thick, wide-bladed St. Augustine grass. With Arizona's constant sunshine and water from the town that covered our lawn like a small pond, the grass flourished and needed constant cutting. Out of the blue, the Tempe Garden Club put a sign in our yard that we were the lawn of the month. Raised in the Northeast, we thought, what says Arizona more than a backyard pool? Paying $5,000 for the pool, the cool decking, and all the tile, we had our antidote to the dry, oven-like heat of the Phoenix metropolitan area. Without air conditioning for the 115-degree summer days, we did have a swamp cooler on our roof. Swamp coolers operate by water dripping down reed mats, and then a fan blows cool air into the house. Though ideal for low humidity days in June, swamp coolers provide little relief in the humidity of July, August, and September. Even so, we were living the dream in our first home in the desert.
This is Barry Horde on the theme of home. Home right now is Morristown, New Jersey. Home for me might be a slight different interpretation than what we may hear this morning. But as a wanderer, home means a solid place that journeys begin and journeys end. And everything that happens from that first step out of home to the day that I return is life as I know it. So home is a destination. And when the trip ends, home is where the cat lies, where the teapot boils in the morning, sunlight falls upon the cat, and home is a place where I can close my eyes and feel assured that those things will be there in the morning. But home is the basis of my wandering. And as I depart on a day, a week, or a month, or longer, home takes on a different perspective each day. For home comes a destination from the first footstep out the door on whatever journey may be taking me. And the farther from home, in both distance and time, changes perspective of what home is and how home will be to get back to. A journey of a week to a different state. Home is not so large. It'll be nice to get back to Morris County, or if I'm across country, it'll be nice to get back to New Jersey, as opposed to if I'm gone for the day, I can't wait to get back home tonight. So home is the anchor that all travel is based upon. When I was a kid of 18, I helped a mason, a craftsman in New Jersey, strain and work and create his homes that we were building. I was the young mason's helper who sweat and carried 12-inch blocks, and the sun would weaken me, and he would just say, "Come on, boy, bring me the blocks, mix the cement, let's build this home." I had an appreciation for what home really is, but as life progressed, home became much more. So an overseas journey, home is not going back to Morris County or New Jersey. It's just, can't wait to get back to the States. And those guys that orbited the moon can't wait to get back home to the planet Earth, the good Earth.
This is KGUA.
All right. Well, this is KGUA, and that was Leanne Lindsay, and we'll get back to Living on Earth in a little bit. You know, Mark, I can't help but keep thinking about, God, I love that last image of the guys and women now coming in from space, wanting to come home. I mean, that's, I can't even fathom that, and that's just not in my makeup. But as I know we've got one more to read, and it's a longish one, but you know, it also strikes me there's a difference between home and where you live. And,
right.
And
and where you live, right?
Because when I look at, you know, you're talking about coming back from DC, and I never felt like that was home.
Right.
It was never home for me. I lived there 2 or 3 times. I can't remember. I've lived in other places, but NDC never felt like home to me.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Billy said to me before I left, and I think I said this once before, you need to do this trip because you're not feeling whole. You're not feeling whole. My grandson, my kids, all that, there was a space. He says, you need to feel whole, and it's missing. And I bounced with the grandson, and I hiked with my daughter. I was with my daughter on her birthday, and I played with their dogs, and I got the hugs and all the photos. And Peggy, as soon as I left, I realized I have love there, but my home is here. And I came home, and when I turned onto Pepper Road, I said, I am so whole and I am so energized that I'm going home, and I'm home. And this is what happens 5 hours later. And when people talk about the anchor, we live in Anchor Bay, right?
Yes.
We're anchored.
We're
So there's much here. I'm going to we have Sue Miller. I'm going to throw a choice of prompts to you. So we need about a minute from that. Do you want to read Sue? You like to read Sue?
Sure, I read Sue. I will read her. I have not read this yet, and it's a wealthy one here. Home, and Sue Miller, thank you, from Santa Rosa.
Yep.
I have never been home so much as this past year. And this is the first person who said that. I've never been home so much as this past year. Now I'm trying to figure out how to break out, leave my home. I feel blessed to be fully vaccinated. I know I can be freer to leave my house, but I feel cautious going out into the world. I like to shop, but only when there are few people out. I do not feel comfortable being out amongst the world. I arranged to shop this morning at 8 a.m. when Trader Joe's opened. For the first time, I could use my own recyclable bags in the store. Little by little, restrictions are letting go. I have not bought new clothing, though I need some. I still feel that hesitancy to enter a department store. I did buy new exercise shorts at a store for sports shoe store. I was the only one in the store for the majority of the time, and I felt comfortable there. I want to be brave, but I realize all this isolation has become a new comfortable habit. I went yesterday and got new passport pictures because I want to renew my passport and travel again someday. Each week, I want to do something that brings new people into my life. I'm excited to have set up an appointment to trade body work with a friend this coming week. We both practice Jinshin Jitsu, similar to acupressure. I look forward to receiving and giving a session. This morning, I watered my plants and saw both my zucchini plants have little baby green zucchini. My artichoke plants have good-sized artichokes. I plan to cook them for dinner tonight. I plan to leave my remaining fava beans to dry so I can harvest fava beans to plant next year. I love fava beans, but have maxed out on shelling them. You have to shell them twice. Getting away from home is my next step. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sue. And Peggy, I want to say something. Many people talked about this, and I'm living it. It is difficult going out there for a number of reasons. We're moving out of shelter in place, whether it's even backyard for Peggy's birthday party to be with a lot of people. There are a lot of new kinds of anxieties and cautions. Embrace it. Embrace the mindfulness that you have about dealing with people and going in. Just embrace it. It's not an easy thing. You'll see Scott and Tree will talk about this. Just embrace this new way. Don't rush back, because if we rush back, we're going to forget. Which leads me to the prompt for next week. I had one of two, but I think after Sue Miller. We've all heard about the hardships of the pandemic. We've all learned about the problems. But to some people, all of us, the pandemic has been a friend in some ways. We've learned something about ourselves, about each other. What have you learned over the year and a half about yourself? I learned, Peggy, and I share this in public, I profile. I make judgment calls. I snap my judgments. Oh, that darn car passed me again, damn Lexus. You know what I mean? I make judgment calls. The car in front of me is going too slow. Figures, look who's driving, right? I make judgments. I do. And I felt it this trip. And that self-awareness made me, toward the end of the trip, stop to think like, wait a minute. I'm getting in touch with some of the things that I'm quick to judge. So what have you learned about yourself? Where has the pandemic been a friend? And we're all talking about home and everything. Tell us, what have you learned about yourself? Exit 55. Episode 55. That's where my head is at.
Hey,
Thanks,
it's
everybody.
almost, thank you, everybody, for writing today. I love that we have two families writing. Can't wait till we hear next time from Annika, and we haven't heard from Luca in a while. I gotta go. I do this every dang week. Bye,
Happy
Mark.
birthday.
Bye, KGUA Writers. Thank you. See you all. It's time for Native America Calling, live from Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is KGUA in Wallala, 88.3 FM. And I gotta get